Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Very excited to have our monthly market update. We have a fantastic guest today, Derek Campbell. How's it going, Derek?
Good. How are you guys?
Excellent. Um, yeah, so very excited about what we're going to cover today. And before we deep dive that, we want to cover a few things. I want to go over Derek and his background a little bit. We do quite a bit of work with Derek. He and his team are a fantastic group of wholesalers and he and his wife are partners. They have an excellent business. They do a really good job of finding fantastic off-market deals, being very transparent. The people that we work with mutually speak very highly of their team, their communication, their candor, their honesty, and really helping people succeed. They don't look at things as transactional. It's really a relationship-oriented business for them. So we love teaming up. Derek, tell us a little bit about what's going on with you and your team.
Yeah, so thanks, Wade. So my name is Derek Campbell. I've been in the Houston market since 2015, been working kind of the wholesale space since then as well. My team and I, we actually are growing. So we got 14 sales and acquisitions agents here in Houston.
Wow.
Our primary focus is we focus on finding those deep discounted properties, off-market properties for investors. Just another you know, source that you can get some inventory from, right? So if you're an active investor, we try to be as accurate as possible with our numbers that we're running, still leave some meat on the bone for you. Negotiate, find those off-market properties. We do things a little bit different than some other companies may. We don't charge double close. That's huge. If you guys are buying deals from New Western, net worth, any of the other like smaller startups in the industry that are starting charging you guys those double close fees. We don't charge you that and save you about $5,000 to $7,000. And yeah, there's no obligation. Just get on our list, work with one of our agents. We try to extend, our network. My network's pretty extensive. So if I can help you in any way, with your real estate investment journey, I'm here.
Absolutely. And actually, their second partner did a cool video with us the other day. I thought brought some great insight on scaling a business, growing it for real estate investors. So if you guys have not seen that yet, I would definitely encourage you checking it out. A lot of great info there.
Yeah,
I appreciate
I just wanted to sing Derek's praises a little bit. Um, like you said, the double close is a huge deal. If you don't double close, that could save you. I mean, I've seen some big fees on some of those double closes that, sometimes 5 grand in fees that maybe you didn't analyze on your deal. That can obviously make or break a deal. The ARVs that they come in through, obviously nobody's perfect, but Derek's group is very good and very accurate. A lot of times they come in, actually, the deals come in higher than what they estimated. Obviously, not every deal, but on the whole, working with a lot of wholesalers, Derek's group does a really good job of sending in
it.
quality deals. Um, Great staff. And then the last thing is the speed at which, if you want to work with Derek and talk to him and his team, no more proof of how effective they are is because I get a list of all of their deals outstanding every single day. I get an email of what's out there. And I'm always amazed at how quickly I see a deal go up, and then the next morning it is no longer available. So that is a testament to the quality of the deals they're bringing. So if you are looking to scale up and get into real estate, I highly recommend connecting with Derek and his team to, to become one of their investors.
Yeah. And just to piggyback on that real quick, I did at one time, my wife and I, we were flipping, I think at the most at one time we had 15 projects going at a time about 3 years ago. So if you're looking to scale up that side, I'd like to help you kind of any way you can. I've lost money and Wade can attest to that as well. Whenever you're doing a lot of projects, you lose money in every way that you can. And if I can help one person not lose money by cutting a corner that they don't think of or not doing something or preemptively doing some repairs on the project that will really pay some returns, I'm here for that. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the most important things for new investors and even people that want to level up is having a very high quality team. And that means like, where you're getting your deals from, who's your lender, who's your title company, who your contractors. And I do think oftentimes, not every time, but oftentimes the best people to put on team are people who've done what you've done. So there are wholesalers out there that have never actually done a flip themselves, have never added a rental. And while they can be good in some instances, I think the people who have the most empathy for what you're going through and who craft the way their process works around how it works for flippers or buy and hold investors are the people who've done it. And Derek and his team have done it at a really high level. They were not just the people who flipped a house a year, they were doing volume, and they can really help you succeed at that type of level. So, all right, let's dive into Houston. And I know, Derek, you and your team are deeply entrenched here in Houston. So let's go.
Read the disclaimer.
I did forget the disclaimer real quick. I appreciate that.
Go back to. Yep.
Yeah, just real quick, making sure that Derek nor I
There we
or Jeff are giving any specific investment advice. We're giving our general opinions, and you should not take anything we say here as direct investment advice, nor are we liable for any, losses that you may take in the future. All right. Now let's get to the fun stuff. Houston, what are you seeing in Houston? Derek.
So
Boots on
I
the
was
ground and
reading-
something else. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, like what you're seeing boots on the ground, and your deal flow.
Yeah,
And whatnot.
so I would say that just year over year or month specific, it's kind of hard to tell because you're kind of going into the summer months. So the summer months is typically for us, people who are wholesaling, doing a lot of business. You can kind of keep your finger on the pulse. It's always Q3, middle of end of Q2 going into Q3. You always have the most volume that you're doing in these 3 months coming into, June, July, August, because people are coming out of, people are able to purchase houses or off of school. So you're getting a little bit of a boost from that, more activity. People want to do projects in the summer. But just looking at it from a recent Q2 to Q3, there's a lot of competition in the market right now in terms of for your deals. There's some inventory that is starting to come onto the market that is a little bit higher than last year. So you're really having to dial in your rehabs to make sure that you're putting the best product on the market. And the days on market are creeping up a little bit. So it's kind of, you just have to make sure that you're buying the right deal right now. And just making sure that your numbers are solid. It is micro specific, so it's neighborhood by neighborhood. So don't be deterred because one neighborhood isn't the best, and you're seeing a flood of inventory, and that's depressing some values and some anything in that sub 300 price point is starting to compress a little bit, but that's good. And honestly, it's a balance out of the inflation from COVID, so it's just coming back to more of a regular, in my opinion. And so whenever that happens, it just means there's more deals to pick from. And so you get to get better spread, essentially.
Yeah, can you deep dive that a little bit? Like you're talking about the deals below 400. Like what exactly are you seeing? Explain it to everybody.
So most of the time, most of the investors that we're selling and just most of the inventory that we're doing in Houston is that sub 300 ARV price point. It's just where most investors are able to afford purchasing stuff. It's where most homeowners are starting to buy that first house. So you have a good amount of homes available in that price point. And you also got the ages of those neighborhoods are prime for needing the investors to come in and redo them. And so I was saying, it's just market. I know I'm saying it in broad terms, but like what we're seeing is an influx of amount of deals, but you have to be really specific and really know the areas that you're investing in right now, because there are inventory coming onto the market because the sales are coming in. It's the summer months, and you just need to make sure you have the best product, and it's a clean product. It doesn't even necessarily have to be the best product, but you may have to just make sure you're on top of your repair crew a little bit more, make sure that the paint, because you don't want to give these buyers who put stuff under contract any excuse to terminate because they're the old saying of the father-in-law walks it and finds all these issues with the house of all the different paint and so you just don't want to give them reasons. So just pay attention a little bit more on the rehabs, I'd say.
Yeah.
I did want to mention real quick, I just personally, I had a hell of a time flipping a house in the Woodlands, and I've been holding it for a year. and we took it off the market. We staged it. I put a new roof on it. I relisted it for $20,000 above list of what I had it before, and it sold in 2 days.
Wow.
So it's those small details that the roof was a big turnoff to the people before, and the staging is a huge deal. It only cost us a little over $2,000 to stage it. And so we ended up netting $12,000 more than what I had it on the market for before, and then turned it. So it's it's hit or miss, and just make sure that you're putting a little bit more into that product that you have in the good markets. So
How long did you have it down?
I'm sorry.
How long did you
Oh,
take
I
it off
took it
for?
up 2 months. I
Two
took it off
months?
for 2 months. Wanted to let it cool down a little bit. Um, and we put the new roof on and fixed all the very minor issues in the house that were the issues that the people were complaining about, and put it and fixed the fence and landscaped it a little bit, and staged it. And the stagers did a beautiful job. And instantly I had, within the first week, I had more showings than I did in 6 months. So it's photos, staging makes a huge deal right now. Just make it so that your house stands out. Um, and it's just you're eating into a small bit of the margin, but and only it's cosmetic, but you're giving these first time home buyers something to look at whenever they walk in. Oh, I can put my bed here, and I can put my, you know I can stage it like this, and this feels like a home, right?
Yeah. So props
And
to
I
you
should have
for
known
like
better.
for doing that. No, but like a lot of folks will let it sit for a while. They'll they'll not kind of self reflect and say, okay, what are people that are walking it saying the problem is? Um, you made the point to take it off, fix it, spend some money, but by listening, you're able to make more money as opposed to most folks would probably would have just kept it on the market. And I know we say this a lot, but you're probably never going to get a better offer than the first offer in most
Yeah.
instances. Like you were able, like you said, you
I
listed it
think,
over and you got an offer
yeah, I
within
listed
two
it twenty
days.
thousand dollars, and they gave me a slight pushback on it. Why is it $20,000 more? And I'm like, well, we fixed X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
And the staging really helped. And like I said, I should have known better. And you really have to look at the deal too. You can't be looking at it through colored, lenses. You can't just be like, well, I put X amount of money into it and it's worth that. I couldn't justify any more price reductions on it, even though we're going to barely break even on it. I just couldn't look at the product and look at the market, and it wasn't a price thing. And so you have to, you know, and if you're doing any flips and you ever have any questions and you're ever in a bind like that, I am available. Please just, feel free to give me a call. I help realtors all the time that I work with get a second opinion on, the pricing of stuff. Um, and that can, make a couple tens of thousands of dollars sometimes on just making the right decision on pricing.
Yeah, couple things I took from that is, the market speaks and you have to respond to it. If you're, even though, the days on market are 60 days, months of inventory is 4.9. I think if you have the property for, 30, 45, 60 days, the market's really telling you, and you need to be responsive to that, right? So you were responsive. You said, hey, I got to get a new roof on here. I got to make some repairs. That's super important to be responsive, because you can't just be stubborn and say, well, to your point, I put this much into it. I got to get this much out of it. And, the other thing is, there's a world where you don't make more money even though you did the roof, but sometimes it's what you have to do to sell it. This time it worked out really well, but I've seen other people where, if somebody, the average end buyer is going to spend probably double what you're going to spend on a roof as an investor. That's the simple reality of it. Plus, they're like, I'm buying this home. I don't want to finance this much and then have to drop, for them, probably 20 or 25K on a roof in the Woodlands. It's just a mental block that they don't want to do. I'm buying my home. I don't want to have to finance it and then spend 20, 25K out of my own pocket afterwards. So really good to be responsive, but you just always have to be pensive and say, what is the reason? The comments are super important. Sometimes you will not get comments from agents, but you can call the agents and ask them what went wrong. Sometimes they're a little lazy. That's super important, because the only way you'll really know what you have to do is by getting the feedback. Then you have to be nimble, right?
Yeah.
Right, just a couple things in the data here that I did want to talk through. And buyer's market technically is 6 months of inventory. We're at 4.9, and that's not drastically greater than where we were in April of 2019, which was considered a normal market. We always refer back to that because that's pre-COVID, just a normal run-of-the-mill average Houston market. And it was, it's about, I guess, 20% higher than that. And then you look at the days on market, we're talking 57 in that normal market versus 60 today. So,
Yeah.
it's not anything outrageous. You're seeing the average and median sales prices down slightly. Um, nothing, nothing tremendous, not like a huge correction. But what this is presenting, to Derek's point, is a buyer's market. You have a lot more inventory out there than you would have seen in times in the past. So I think that is an opportunity for buyers to get better deals. Whenever there's more inventory out there, 4.9 months versus 4, you do have an opportunity to get some better deals. Really good for buy and hold investors, but also to Derek's point, if you're getting deals at the right price and you have good relationships with contractors to get high quality, reasonably priced work, you can really crush it as a flipper in this market as
Yeah.
well.
I mean, I also would say, like, if you're looking at comps in an area, don't be deterred by someone who has, over like just an exorbitant amount of high days on market for that one property that's been sitting there. Because I'm seeing this a lot. We're just sometimes you're being stubborn, like I was being stubborn. I should have put a new roof on, and I was refusing to adjust and listen to what the market was telling me. And I was blowing up the average days on market for that neighborhood because I didn't have the right product on the market and it didn't present the right way. It wasn't because it wasn't worth that, because it obviously sold for more than that. It was something that the decision that I made caused the high days on market. So you can really like get into the weeds, look at stuff, the days on market. If it's over 200, it's either priced too high or something's different about the house. So don't be deterred by just that one off or person that's skewing stuff. Don't be scared by that one property. If there's other proven things that have sold quicker. So.
Good advice. Jeff, anything else jumping out at you in the numbers?
Yeah, well, the only thing, and I think that there's I always look at the sales versus listings, and if I look at 25 and 26, I think that 19 listings number is wrong. I look at the 29, 25, and 26 number of listings. That's flat. Like for the longest time, you would see sales relative to listings, and the listings would be increasing significantly more than like the sales would as a proportion. But for the first time in a while, it looks like it's kind of leveled out. And then some of the slides earlier are talking, there's just a hint of a little more buyer sentiment and positivity. So I always look at that number and say, okay, if there are that many listings relative to sales, that's a good opportunity for investors or folks like Derek that are looking for lots of properties that are available and not a lot moving. But for the first time in a while, I feel like it's kind of flattened out. So it may not move back it may not start going in the other direction just yet, but it's possible. So if that does start happening, then the opportunities will be less. So now is a good time to get in on it.
Okay, very good. All right, let's go to the next slide. And what are you seeing there in Dallas, Jeff?
So Dallas has been probably the best market in Texas for quite some time. The overall median price, $395, relative to Houston, $332. I think it's a little higher in Austin, but Dallas has been a great market. A lot of reasons for that we covered in previous webinars. A lot of job growth, tons of job growth, corporate relocation. Like North Texas is booming when it comes to the economy. And so, and I think there's a slide later we can talk about, like, that is a direct correlation to real estate, the economy. And as you can see, Dallas is crushing, up 60% post-COVID over a 7-year period, which is, even with a down year of 1%, still an astronomical number.
Yeah, Dallas is
This DFW or just Dallas?
This is just Dallas, I believe. The DFW, there is a slide a little bit later talking about DFW, but I believe this is just kind of Dallas proper, I guess.
Dallas. Yeah, that is true.
Do you guys ever venture up there, Derek, or no?
No, I mean, I've been connected to companies that have been running out of Dallas. It's very similar to the Houston market. Zoning's a little bit different. It's a little bit more expensive price points, but the ages of the properties are very, very similar, same style. And so I have been reading a couple of the articles that are saying that, I mean, Dallas is still charging through. That Houston and Dallas are pretty resilient regardless of what's going on.
Yeah, Dallas, you know, to both your points, it's down slightly, but there was a really, really big run up during COVID. I think it's very important that we all consider that whenever you had that massive of a run up in a very short time frame, there's going to be some natural correction. Historically, appreciation's been around 5% in most markets. And whenever you look at just about every long time frame, and we had drastically more than that, it was basically double for that post-COVID period for several years. So this is not, in my opinion, an indication that something's drastically wrong with the market. It's just a little bit of a correction. The other thing to keep in mind is that if home values have not pulled back whenever rates have been this high relative to their recent numbers, not to long-term numbers, but relative to their recent numbers for this long, you would assume that home prices would have a big correction. That's what all the prognosticators said, and it just really hasn't happened in Texas, and it hasn't happened across most of the country either. So I think that gives a good indication that there's a lot of high-end potential whenever rates do inevitably come down. You know, may not be in the anytime in the near future, but when they do, I think there'll be a big jump. All right. So another area that is actually the current best success story in Texas, which is San Antonio. It's the only market that for the past probably 3 or 4 months, as I recall, pretty consistently had at least some moderate year-over-year increase, in that 1, 1, 2% range, something like that. Whereas Houston and Dallas and certainly Austin are either flat or a little bit down. So that's a real success story there for San Antonio. And you look at numbers like, the total sales moderately up. Inventory is definitely up pretty significantly from where they were before, but not a degradation of value, which is good. Now their days on market is higher than most for sure. It's definitely higher than Dallas and higher than Houston as well. But even the months of inventory is 6, but it is trending up in that area overall. So, and whenever we look at the end of this presentation, we're going to cover the affordability index and definitely San Antonio in comparison to much of the country, major cities across the country, and especially in Texas. Very affordable, very affordable. Anything else
I think
jumping out?
it's always, I think it's just one of those things where like the San Antonio is a little bit cheaper market, and unfortunately, like a lot of these stats are influenced by the preconceived notions of the realtors. And I think it's taking the realtors a little bit longer in the price points in San Antonio to come to the realization that the prices either or aren't what they thought, or the product needs to be a little bit better. And that kind of causes some lag. And I see it in Houston all the time. It's just that people are pricing things based on what it was 2 years ago, and you can't do that. You have to be more honest with the home sellers that you're dealing with, especially the as is inventory. And it's just taking people a little bit longer to sell things because you have to come to the realization as a seller that the price that you're thinking it isn't what the market is currently. So,
Yeah. I think in San Antonio, I just look at the days on market and even the lease days on market. Like the fundamentals are strong in San Antonio. The income relative to the cost of living, the jobs. I think it's starting to get a little more diverse economy. So everything is there. And just for whatever reason, like you said, the market seems lagging a little bit. That said, the fundamentals are strong. When you're doing a flip, just kind of assume an extra month of interest, an extra month of holding costs. You just need to buy it a little bit deeper in San Antonio to make the same numbers you would in Houston or Dallas. Doesn't mean you can't make money and have good deals. You just have to be a little more aggressive on your price ask because down the road it's going to take you probably another month to sell. Otherwise, relative to the other markets.
but it's the easy thing to do too. 'Cause you'll have more, instead of two homes to choose from, you got three homes to choose from, and all you got to do is, hey,
Correct.
Mr. Seller, just give me $5,000 off, and this makes a deal. And you'll
Yeah.
find one of those three that's willing to do it, and it's not a hard ask.
Yeah. I mean, just look at like 2019 sales versus listings, 3,000 to 10,000. Now it's 3,100, but almost 17,000. So like to your point, you have more to choose from. So you can be a little more aggressive with your deals and your terms.
Let's look at Austin. Jeff, anything jumping out at you here?
No, I mean Austin is still the number one as far as value goes. I think the median price in Dallas was like 395. Austin's 440. Austin had just a crazy pre-COVID run up, and then but they had a bigger fall than the other markets as well. But it's stabilizing. If you look at months of inventory, it's actually going down. The sales and the pending sale of the listings, they're actually, if you look at it relative to last year, there are fewer listings and more sales. So that tells me the market's moving in a direction of prices probably going to start increasing a little bit. I think I'm not a market timer, but if I had to guess, I feel like the dip has hit and it's probably going to, over the next year or so, start climbing back up because it's still a great place to live. It's one of the best towns in the state. It's a very different feel than the other ones, and it's historically been the most expensive pieces of real estate in the state. So I do think it's going to rebound.
Yep. So Derek, I have noticed, and this may be anecdotal and just a limited data set, but it does seem like I've seen a few more larger deals come in from you guys lately. I don't know if you covered this specifically, but is that a different marketing strategy, or are you seeing some larger deals come through your?
In terms of price points,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think specifically just for us, the buying pool that we started out with whenever we started our business 2 years ago was not really touching the higher end stuff. And as I'm able to help educate the acquisitions agents to look in those higher end price points, and people are more willing to invest in those prior to be honest with you, like I love the over 400 right now because that is the income bracket that's really not being depressed right now. Because if you make over a certain amount, the interest rate being 6 versus 4 isn't a huge impact to you. And that 400 to $600,000 ARV, you're always going to have those new homes, especially in the Houston area in certain neighborhoods, people looking because that is going to be their first home. And you have two income earners usually above 100,000, and it's more insulated. And it's not feeling the crunch of as much. I mean, everyone feels the crunch about the gas prices and inflation and that, but it's relatively holding. And then you get to, as an investor, if you're used to that higher end stuff, you can just choose to put a nicer product on market. You can stand out like that because you don't even have to overspend. You can just let the material choices that you do make it stand out so that it sells quicker.
Those are some great points, especially you don't think about it, but you're right. Like if you're buying in the much higher end, obviously interest rates matter, but if you're at that level, your income is probably so significant that a move of a rate or rate and a half is not going to necessarily be the biggest buying decision you have. We have investors that we work with that do a great job in this space. They do outstanding rehabs. They sell them really fast. So it is a spot, I guess, on the value scale where you can still be very successful if you know what you're doing and you have a plan. You have to have good contractors. You can't go grab your rental guys and put them in a $800,000 flip and expect them to hit the mark. It's a different level.
I mean,
sure.
This isn't what we're talking about, but I think now in the next 10 years is going to be the best time to ever be a landlord. Because if you can get something in cash flow as your note right now, we're at such the affordability index and people being able to buy these new homes. My generation, the millennial generation, delaying buying new homes because they're saving. People need to rent. And it's transitioning to people delaying even more that are my age buying their first home because of the cost of goods and stuff. So they need to rent somewhere. And that means that you have a healthy influx of tenants looking for that are able to still afford decent rents. and it's going to continue to be a steady appreciation. I think now is one of the best, especially if you own small multifamilies or fourplexes, eightplexes, stuff like that. It's a good time.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt about it. All right, let's look at this next slide and you know, talking about being a landlord and where the market in Texas is going. Um, it's really pretty incredible to think about that how many of the largest U.S. towns are here in Texas and how many people are moving to the state. Business friendly environment, good economy, low tax state that's really pulling a lot of people in. But Houston being number four, you combine Dallas and Fort Worth there, that puts them right at about number four. Whenever you put the DFW area together, San Antonio number seven, and then Austin number 12. Like that's a incredible growth pattern there, and it mentions it here. But we are seeing so many corporate relocations moving from those higher tax, less business friendly states, moving to Houston, Dallas, a lot in Austin as well. So if you're looking to be a landlord, what a fantastic state in which to do it, and also a landlord friendly state from a legal perspective, right? Anything else jumping out here, gentlemen, or any other takeaways that you're thinking about from a rental landlord perspective?
Hope they pass this cap on the tax increases.
Yeah, which they had a tax on owner occupied, but now it's expanded to non-owner, which is really good.
Yeah, I looked at the article, and yeah, this is all good. But the other part that I thought was interesting was it says 10 of the 11 fastest growing cities by percentage are in Texas.
Ooh, wow,
Like that,
that's
10
amazing.
of the 11. So there's smaller towns, like the three they mentioned by name were Salina, Princeton, and Fulshire. And I think Salina and Princeton are both like suburbs up by Dallas, and Fulshire is a Houston suburb out here. So it's these uh, as these cities grow and opportunities expand, like the markets just kind of the tertiary markets are picking up the spillover from the growth of Houston, San Antonio, Houston, Dallas, San Antonio. I'm sure there's some San Antonio ones in there as well that weren't listed, but I just thought that was crazy. It's not just the big cities. Take the little ones. 10 of the 11 highest fast percentage wise are all in Texas.
Yes, that's incredible. Um, Jeff, I don't know if you had a chance to review this slide, but tell me what you're seeing here.
So let's see. I did. Um, so I'll just read it real quick and then we can talk about it. So home sales rebounding where supply has surged. Southern markets with plenty of choices lead the U.S. in annual sales growth. So home sales rose the most over the year in Austin, actually, where inventory is a nation-leading 52% above pre-pandemic. So if we went back and looked at that chart in the 2019 inventory versus now, it is a lot more, right? And I think that's my little chart. Yeah. So the inventory in 2019, it's almost 2x now than what it was back then. So there's lots of opportunities. To your point, though, like the prices are flat. You would think if there's a shortage, you would think the prices would go up, but they are flat. So, I'm sorry, not a shortage, an abundance. Basically, what this is saying is that there are still a ton of homes for sale that investors can pick up at a good price.
Yeah, and it's good to have a national perspective and see where out of the major metros, the cities in in Texas are where they are located. But if you look at all these major metros and this inventory number, there's a lot of inventory in the major metros in Texas. That is a simple reality. A ton of people moving here. There's still a lot of inventory. So I think a lot of people that are moving in or renting, maybe waiting a little bit longer to buy, some of them, right? We are seeing that soften a bit, but that is some of what's going on. So that's very good for landlords, but also I think for future appreciation, it's a big positive too, because there are so many people moving to the state, but we still have this inventory here, right? That's eventually going to have to be picked up.
I think well, the new construction has been pretty pronounced here in Texas, and that has a lot to do with it as well.
For sure.
I
Yeah.
have I have a couple contacts at some large funds, and every time I talk to the funds, and you know those funds, they change their buying criteria as the market shifts over the last 10 years, and they were buying up north before, but they always come back to the old bread and butter Sun states, and it's they if they're not buying in Texas, then they're not buying anywhere, and it's really like that's the last one that they want to turn that faucet off. Texas, Phoenix, those areas that they can predict and are very stable, and have consistent growth is so if they stop buying in Texas, then we should be worried.
So you're talking about hedge fund guys,
Oh
pretty much?
yeah, all the
Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah,
so
they're
we
always like yeah.
we covered this a few months ago. I'm curious if your guys would say the same thing, but like they don't buy as much as you would think given the press because everyone gets nervous they're going to come in and buy everything. They don't buy everything, but what they do is they buy in very specific pockets. Like they will
Yeah.
find a zip code or an area that they love, go all in on that area. So yeah, if you want to buy houses in that specific market, then yeah, it may
Yeah.
be a challenge because you're competing against a lot of guys with big money. But outside of that, it's not
Yeah.
something to fear.
Yeah, I think it's just more of a philosophical approach, and I don't really, I say that because they have more analytics and more data behind them than I ever will, and not even to say that, I mean, they're going to make poorer decisions than we will if we're experts in our own microeconomy, right? But as a whole, the Sun Belt in Texas is very safe for them because they can make a mistake and their mistake isn't as bad as it is in your New York or your Pittsburgh or your Buffalo, because there's a lot of unknowns.
100%.
Yeah. And I can't emphasize enough how important it is to be in a landlord-friendly state if you can invest long term. Like judicial foreclosure states are very, very difficult if you're a lender, but also the time in which it takes to evict people is significantly longer. And there are some states where it's just incredibly difficult to get people or squatters out of your home. It's just very, very difficult. So it's a very friendly
Did they
state to be a long-term lender.
did they pass that law away? Do you know if the one that was making it easier to evict people was like streamlining it? They were talking about that like 2 or 3 months ago, or am I
I didn't
incorrect
see if
about
that
that?
passed or not. I do remember it being debated, but I didn't see if that passed or not. But that is something that we could definitely
It
make
was
sure
like
to.
shortening the notice and stuff that you had to give and streamlining it. I hope I'll have to do more research.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so let's go to this next slide. Um, and this is like a leading indicator, right, of the market shifting a little bit. So home purchase cancellations are no longer on the rise. So there was an upward trend on cancellations, which basically means somebody's under contract for a home and maybe they see something else they like a little bit more, or they feel they are more empowered whenever they're going through the inspection report. Like they ask for a lot more, maybe unreasonable things because they feel like so many homes are on the market. And that is starting to tick down, which is a good indication that the market is not as buyer friendly as it was before, and that's good for flippers in general. Having a little bit more balance there could be good. It's not a drastic change, but it's just a shift because it had been a trend of increasing cancellations for some time, and then it has declined slightly more recently. So, but it is interesting that home buyers are most likely to back out across the Sun Belt and in San Antonio being one of the specific states mentioned. And that's not illogical because we do have, even though it's a good market, there's a reasonable amount of inventory out there. So people are kind of empowered, right? If they want to be in a certain neighborhood and there's 15 homes on the market today, and back during COVID there were 4 or 5, like that's a drastic different number of homes that they feel like they can, push the envelope a little bit more in that inspection period. Get like try and pick up a free roof or try and pick up a new HVAC or other very expensive things that they might not try and do in a different market. Anything else jumping out here, John?
Sorry, guys.
I think
Apparently there's a
I think
button
for
on my
me,
computer that turns it off. Sorry about that.
I think for me, it's just making sure that you spend that extra walkthrough or two with your contractor, just making sure you pay contractor, you pay a guy to paint the wall, right? And well, you're going to get what you pay for. Certainly that's the case, but if they overpaint onto your cabinets, right, and it's clearly visible, make them redo it.
Yeah.
Spend the time to make people do that stuff that makes your product look clean, because what happens is not necessarily one thing makes the person bust out. It's a an aggregate of a ton of small items on your punch list whenever they get that inspection back. It scares a first time buyer because they start thinking, oh, a flipper did this house. If they did this sloppy work here, what else am I not seeing? So just spending that little extra time. A lot of times you pay for stuff, make your contractors redo stuff, spend the time on the walkthrough, take that extra day or two to do your fixes before you list it, before you take your photos. Don't, take your photos without doorknobs and stuff like that. Just take your time, make sure it's done right, and it will keep your contract from busting out and getting that negative stigma.
Yeah, that's great advice. One other thing that I always try to do is I try to at least give the buyer the feeling that I met them halfway, right? So oftentimes there's a lot of things that are warranty work from your general contractor, like you'd already paid them for the work, so they'll come in and make those repairs free of charge. It should be warranty work. Then there are other things that are really not that expensive. So I always try to say they requested 10 things. I'm going to do my best to give them five, just mentally. And so candidly, the five may cost me little to nothing, right? I want to avoid the things that are big ticket items like new roof, new HVAC. You get this requested quite a bit. Change all your plumbing supply lines. Like that's enormously expensive and almost impossible. But I see that quite a bit. Oh, it's got galvanized pipe, whatever. So they'll try and request certain things. But you really want to do give them a win. Try to be at 50%, in my opinion. And then the other thing you have to do is, let's say it is a roof and the roof is genuinely bad. And I've faced this situation on when I was just selling out of my rental portfolio the other day. Like whenever we really looked at it, the reality is, could they make it a couple of years on the roof? Yes, but it's probably going to come up on every single inspection report. And once a deal goes under contract, if that if that agent sends you the entirety of the inspection report, technically you're required to disclose it to everybody that looks at it again. So, pro tip,
Yeah.
tell them
Yeah.
you don't want the entire inspection report. You do not want the entire thing because then you're dodging
Yeah.
two. So just tell them, hey,
Yeah.
if you have some things you want, just send me excerpts of what you want me to do. That's extremely important. But then, secondly, just you're going to make the decision. How much longer is it going to take me to find somebody? And what are the odds that they're going to say, I got to do this roof again? So, on that one, I just did it, right? Because I said, it's going to take me another 15, 30 days to get this thing under contract. It's going to cost me about 6 grand to do it. Everyone else is going to be looking at it as a 12 or 15 grand expense because they pay twice as much as I do. And I felt better about just getting it done. Now, if it wasn't in real bad shape, I probably would have pushed back on that one. But in the reality on that one is, to your point, we didn't review it thoroughly enough up front, and I just made a mistake. And it's one of those times I just had to eat it. But it would have cost me more money if I didn't do it, I think. Right. Anyway, uh, this next one, where are we at? Jeff, did you what do you think on this one? Shifting.
Honestly, I think we can skip this one. We have a lot of other slides that I think it's kind of more of the same. We're running out of time. I did want to briefly talk about the next one though. So it says price drops are becoming slightly less common as housing markets stabilize. Basically, what they're saying is that the drops are less likely, which would make me think, okay, the sellers are gaining a little bit more of an edge. But if you look at the total numbers, like if you look at the chart historically, percentage of sellers that cut their price, it's still significantly above historical norms. So, I mean, if you look at it, yeah, it went down, I guess, a smidge, but you're looking at 35% relative to everything else on this chart. 2018, there's nothing higher. So it is still, this tells me there's still a very strong buying opportunity if prices are getting dropped this fast. Now, obviously, if you're on the sell side, you need to follow the strategies we talked about. But if you're on the buy side, this is still telling me there's a lot of opportunities to pick up properties that maybe are listed at prices significantly higher than what you think you should pay. Because the reality is, no matter what somebody lists it for, especially if this is an investment property, the market's gonna buy it at the right price. No one's going to buy a deal at 90% thinking they're going to flip and make money. You would hope not, right? If you have any amount of sense. So there are opportunities out there, even if the deals are significantly overpriced. Make your offer. You never know when you're going to catch them at the right time, where they're just like, screw it, I need to get out of this property right away. I don't know if you guys see a lot of that, Derek, or what, but like, just if you're, I don't know if you guys do any on market buying or if it's all off. But I imagine the start price versus where you end up is significantly different.
Yeah, I mean, we average probably 30K off list usually for the ones that we're buying. It's just like you said, catching them at the right price. And unfortunately, a lot of it is going back to it, it's the realtor based. I can't look at certain things, and sometimes I'll look at a property and I'll know this has to go to an investor, this cannot qualify, and then I'll look at the listing price and go, why is it listed here? It's not even close to what an investor would have to buy it at. Yep. It's 90% of what it's worth fixed up, and that to me is a fundamental issue with the listing agent and setting expectations with that seller, because you don't say yes and waste your time with a seller like that. You should be setting expectations, and that just creates friction throughout the transaction, in my opinion.
No, that's there are a lot, the barrier to entry to be a real estate agent is not that high. And there are a lot of them that think I'm going to get in here and do this, and that is probably one of the largest gaps, is understanding when a home does not qualify for any type of long-term financing, what the options are. And those options are to sell to investors, and where they need to buy it in order for it to make economical sense. It's often lost on them, for sure.
There's always going to be people that are going to pay more than us and me and every investor to live in it, and that, but there's a maximum, I always feel like.
Yeah, but it still has to qualify for financing, though. Like if the roof is not going to qualify for financing, HVAC is not operational, or there's significant foundation issues, that precludes most end buyers from getting it, because they're just not going to buy it for cash. The people that are going to buy and live in a home, 300,000 cash, those people are probably going to buy a different home, maybe a more expensive home, because they have ability to finance it. Yeah. All right. This next slide is interesting, and I do want to talk about this a little bit because it's an interesting thing. That housing often moves in concert with labor, the labor market, right? And that there are some layoffs taking place. And I did want to talk about this because I've been doing quite a bit of research on AI and its impact in our industry and in other markets. We're definitely using it some as a team. We're excited about it, but and one of the things to keep in mind is, I think, while it is going to impact some jobs in the short run, fortunately in Texas, we're building data centers, all kinds of stuff. So there's lots of opportunities in Texas right now, which is good. But at every moment where there was a new technology, jobs change. If you think, let's say 100 years ago, most people were farmers, and if you said, where are the jobs going to go? Do you think people would have even known what a security, like a cybersecurity person is, or an IT specialist, or what a CRM developer, like all these different things that are jobs today? You cannot anticipate what they're going to be. So for us to sit here and say, oh, where are the jobs going to come from? If you can't define the jobs, they're not going to be there. It's really kind of, I think, more of an alarmist mentality, because every single major technological advancement, society has improved, at least from a cost, like the quality of life that we have. In certain ways, maybe people might say we're hooked on our phones and everything else. That's a different perspective. But just as far as we have better food, better healthcare, longer lifespans, et cetera, from all these advancements, and the jobs just shift. So I would not be worried about that from a real estate perspective, that layoffs are directly going to cause home price reductions. I don't see that myself. That's not the way I'm looking at it. So I would just encourage people, if you hear that alarmism, just be cautious about that thought. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on AI in the job market or not, but that's my 2 cents on
it. Like you said, it's like the horse and buggy. I mean, I'm sure every iteration of new technology is different, but I don't know. I like, to your point, I think it's alarmist to think we're all going to be out of jobs in a year because of AI. I mean, just human nature is to want purpose for the most part. So, you're gonna, even if you had the ability, right, you want to find something to do with yourself. And
Well, I always take it as like, what can't AI do even in the short term? And I would be curious to look back, 30, 40 years from now, whenever the next generation hits us, maybe our tradesmen, maybe tradesmen starts picking up because, AI can't take an electrician's job right now, or even in the next 10 years. So what are the kids looking at going, well, I may not have to go to college because AI is taking a lot of these financial position jobs and stuff like that. Maybe I'm going to be an electrician. And, those costs for those jobs is going to adjust, and maybe the electricians start making more. We need more of them. That's all. We need more
Yeah,
tradesmen. So
there's no doubt about that. Yeah. Actually, one of my good friends' sons is doing exactly that. Like, he's got a vision to go. He's going to be not a electrician, but an HVAC guy. And there's a lot of different ways you can do that. You could be an employee that works for other people. You can eventually open your own HVAC business. You can buy another HVAC business. There's so many different things that are possible whenever you do that. So that's, I think, in the short run, to your point, before we know what the next, you know, uh, data analyst or cybersecurity specialist is going to be, that does seem like a category, especially with all the data centers that are being built and the new power centers that are being built. Those seem like very good jobs for sure. All right. I thought that this was a very interesting article. Actually, let's go to, I think it's the next slide, if you don't mind. Yeah, this is a good one. So, housing affordability in Houston swings as 42% of households can now swing homeownership. So that's a big improvement. If you look at it, a notable increase from 37%. That's a Guys, that is a huge swing. The number of people who can afford to buy a home. That is not an insignificant number. It's
agree.
things, interest rates, but also home prices coming down a little bit, wages going up correspondingly. All those things are baking in to where you're seeing, you know, over to 15% more people being in the house buying market, which also means that other people can level up into those different price points. I think Derek and I are both saying our average loan size has gone up significantly in the past few months. I think we're seeing a lot of that as well because investors are definitely feeling better about those higher end markets and flipping in that category. So I thought that was a really interesting statistics. Anything else on this page?
No, I thought the exact same thing. I thought that is a big jump. Um, that could signal less leverage, I guess, for buying off-market properties. If more people can afford to buy houses, you will see more leverage for the sellers. So if that trend continues and you want to buy off-market properties at a deep discount, I would do it sooner rather than later, is how I read this.
That's true, but like people are killing into flippers during COVID too. Like you just have to adjust to the market, right?
Yeah.
Anything else there, Derek? No? Let's hit this next one. A lot of Houston information. Balance and stability in Houston housing market despite national global uncertainty. Jeff, what did you see here?
Um, so the thing I was looking at, with regards to Houston, it was a couple slides ago. There was a stat saying property showings were up 9% year over year. That seemed significant to me. Like the ice is thawing a little bit when it comes to buyers looking. Like, that would make sense too, because based on the previous slide, like I said, there's 5% more people now that are able to buy property affordably. So I do think that things are looking up from a buyer perspective, as regards to rates maybe dropping a little bit, wages going up, and prices flattening or maybe even dropping. So that was my big takeaway from this group of Houston slides that we had.
And with limited time here, I would like to go to slide 20. It's okay. We'll skip this next slide and go to, there we go.
Oh yeah, this is a good one.
Yeah. So this is it says Dallas as the highlight, and it is for primary markets, but this is talking about the top data markets. And this is a really amazing statistic, guys. Dallas is ranked as the #1 primary data center in the world market. That's an incredible statistic. But then you look at going to the secondary market. So what is the best secondary market? Austin, San Antonio. then tertiary West Texas, and number three is Houston. So this is so many of the job opportunities going to be moving into this data area, right? This is going to be huge for future growth. High paying jobs. I think these are going to be very good jobs that increase what people can afford. So really good information if you're looking at in the short or long term investing in Texas real estate. I thought that was a real strong one. Anything else jumping out
Yeah.
here?
No, like you said, there's a lot of Texas properties on there. Panhandle was on there. There was one more too. The interesting part though was that last bullet point: power supply bottlenecks. Securing electricity has replaced securing land as a primary constraint. So, if you are in markets where it is easy and cheap and a friendly government to get access to power, which Texas is, it's just going to exacerbate the advantage that places like that have over more heavily regulated type areas.
Yeah, I saw something that of the power and data centers that were attempting to being built like in the past 2 years or something like that, about half of them were delayed due to some type of lawsuits or regulatory environment, and that none of them in Texas have been impacted in that way. So that's why so much of this is moving to Texas. Texas is really and it's funny. We have one of our bars who really wants to do some things in Abilene. I didn't know that much about it, but I looked it up, and it is like the fastest appreciation market in the entire country right now. Like home prices have gone through the roof. Rents have literally doubled. Like it's truly incredible. Whenever those
Yeah.
economic opportunities come in there, it totally changes the dynamic of an entire city. Like whenever those things happen, home prices just shoot through the roof, rents shoot through the roof. Very, very powerful impact.
Yep.
Anything else here, Derek, before we move on? No? All right. Uh, let's see. Jeff, we only have time for one of these two slides. Uh, I kind of like this. No, in San Antonio, you were talking a little bit earlier, Jeff, about the diversity coming into the San Antonio area. And this slide talks about this, military personnel buying a lot of the properties. But do you have any other takes on the diversity and the job market?
Well, I just going back to the Austin, South San Antonio secondary market, right? Like those are jobs on the previous. They were number two or number one in the secondary side. So like, I do think as time goes on and Austin and San Antonio grow, that whole area becomes a lot more diverse with regards to they aren't all military or in San Antonio. There's just a lot more different types of jobs. IT, I bet, is going to start bleeding down there as well from Austin and San Antonio. It's becoming less of just a military town.
For sure.
I think the longer we go, the more diverse it'll be.
So I think the last thing, if we can jump to the affordability index, which is slide 25. And speaking about San Antonio, Derek mentioned this earlier, but just the affordability there is truly, truly impressive. You look at San Antonio, only 28.98% share of income for a mortgage payment. Or you look at Houston's 37, Austin 39, Dallas 44, and that's a pretty darn powerful number. Although you look at Fort Worth also at 30, Arlington at 31. There's some real opportunities in Dallas too, as far as attractiveness of price. Now Houston, it's very interesting because you bake in so many parts. Houston is like a massive metro. It's not divided into Dallas, Fort Worth, or if you look at Dallas, you even have all these other sub pockets up there, like let's see, Garland and Irving and all these Plano broken out separately. But yeah, I just think the affordability of San Antonio, we are seeing some investors that are really crushing it over there with hopes of high appreciation going forward. Anything else before we turn it over to David? I'm sorry, Mauricia. Do we have any questions today, Mauricia, or do we even have time? Maybe one. Maybe one good question for Derek. We have one.
Nope, no questions today.
Okay.
This is David. Sorry, Mauricio is going to take over next month.
Okay. No worries. So I think we're right at noon. I'm just going to ask Derek one thing. Derek, if you were giving one big piece of advice to somebody who wants to get into real estate investing, what would be the biggest thing you would say?
I would find someone who's actually flipped a house and pick their brain, sit down with them for, a half hour, taking a coffee, and just maybe talk to them about maybe some pain points and some issues that they went through. It'll help you wrap your head around what you need to do.
That is great advice. And if you don't know anybody in your peer groups, there's a lot of different real estate mixers. Most people are very willing to talk and share at those. So attend a real estate mixer. Or if you want to reach out to our team at Catalyst or Derek's team, I'm sure that someone on either one of our teams would also be very happy to chat with you, whether you're in the Houston market or in other areas as well. We do have boots on the ground in both San Antonio, Austin area, as well as Dallas. So be happy to chat with you on any of that. And I know that Derek and his team really take kind of paying it forward and sharing information. It's a big part of their value proposition for real estate investors.
Yeah. If they want to get a hold of you, Derek, what's the best way?
You can go to VicinaRealty.com. We got a couple forms that you can fill out. You can always just Google Vicina Realty, or our website, go that way. Or you can always email me as well.
Okay.
Thanks, Derek. Really appreciate it. Some great insights today. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, everybody,
All right.
for joining. Thank you.